Hey everyone, if you're prepping for your banking exams, you know how crucial it is to get inside the RBI's head. Well, today we're doing just that. We're diving deep into the RBI's data quality model. And trust me, this is way more interesting than it sounds. It's about a huge shift in thinking, from just doing what you're told, compliance, to building real, unshakable confidence in the data that powers our entire economy. So let's jump right in.
So, what's on the menu today? Here's our game plan. First, we'll cover why any of this is a big deal. Then, we're going to break down the 8, you heard me, 8 dimensions of data quality. After that, we'll see how the RBI cleverly mashes all of that into one single score. We'll look at how that score is used at different levels, and then we'll wrap it all up with a super focused recap of exactly what you need to nail for your exam.
All right, let's start with Section 1. Why does this stuff even matter? Before we get into all the nitty-gritty details, we really need to understand the why. What is the big problem that a central bank like the RBI is trying to solve here? Okay, just imagine for a second the absolute mountain of data the RBI has to deal with every single day. It's constantly pulling in information from banks, from financial institutions, you name it. Now, the official term you absolutely have to know for your exams is regulated entities, or just REs. And here's the thing. Every single major decision the RBI makes, from changing interest rates to spotting a bank that's in trouble, it all hinges on the data from these REs. So, what happens if that data is junk? Well, you get junk decisions. And that's a recipe for economic disaster.
And that leads us to probably the most important concept in this entire explainer. It's this fundamental shift from compliance to confidence. You see, compliance is just ticking a box. Did the bank send the report? Yes. Check. Easy. But confidence? That's a whole different league. That's about being able to look at the numbers in that report and know for sure that you can trust them to make decisions that affect millions of people. That's the goal.
So how do you officially define good data? Well, here's another key term you've got to burn into your memory: fitness for use. This is the accepted definition of data quality, and it's a beautifully simple idea. It basically says that quality isn't some fixed universal thing. It all depends on what you want to do with the data. Data that's perfectly fit for one purpose might be totally useless for another. It's all about the context.
Okay, so fitness for use is our North Star. But how do you actually measure something like that? Well, the RBI breaks it down into 8 specific measurable dimensions. This next part is absolutely critical, so pay close attention, because these dimensions are the building blocks of the entire model.
Now, to make these 8 dimensions easy to remember, we're going to use a couple of handy acronyms. The first 4 dimensions give us TAC. T is for timeliness, pretty simple, was the data sent in on time. A is for accuracy, how close are the numbers to the real-world truth. C is credibility. Can we trust the process that created this data? And the final C is for consistency. Do the numbers actually add up and make sense when you compare them to other data?
Now this is really cool. It shows how the RBI takes a fuzzy-sounding concept, like credibility, and turns it into a hard number. How? By scoring the level of automation. They look at 3 stages: generating the data, putting it together, and sending it over. The logic is simple. The more automated the process, the fewer humans touching it, the lower the chance of an error. That's why a direct API connection gets a perfect score of 100, while someone manually typing numbers into a website, well, that scores a lot lower.
All right, on to the next 4 dimensions. Our second acronym is CRAS. The C stands for completeness. Are there any blank spaces or missing values? R is for relevance. Is this data actually helpful for what we need it for? A is for accessibility. Can the right people actually get their hands on the data easily? And finally, S is for stability. Does the data hold up and stay reliable month after month, year after year?
So, how are you going to remember all 8 of these for the exam? Easy. Here's your mnemonic. To get high-quality data, you need to clear the TAC and avoid a data crash. Simple, memorable, and it works perfectly. Clear the TAC, avoid the CRS. Got it? Good.
Right, so we have our 8 dimensions. But how on earth do you combine 8 different things into one single score that you can actually use? Well, that is exactly what the Data Quality Index, or DQI, is for. It's the magic tool that rolls everything up into one number. The way it's built is actually very straightforward. It's a simple 3-step process. Step 1, you score each of those 8 dimensions for a given report. Step 2, you apply a weight to each score, because some dimensions are more important than others. And finally, step 3, you aggregate all those weighted scores together to get your final single DQI number. Score, weight, aggregate. Simple.
Now, this is a slide you're going to want to screenshot. This is a huge deal for your exams. The RBI does not treat all dimensions equally. In fact, in the Indian context, the weights are really focused on the top 3. Look at this. Accuracy is the undisputed champion, making up almost a third of the entire score. Right behind it, you have consistency and timeliness. So get this, just those 3 dimensions alone account for more than 70% of the final DQI score. That is a massive takeaway.
Okay, but the DQI isn't just one static number. The RBI is clever about it. They calculate it at 3 different levels. This gives them this amazing ability to either zoom in on a single problem at one bank or zoom out and see the health of the entire financial system.
So let's quickly unpack these 3 levels. First, you've got the entity-level DQI. Think of this as a report card for a single bank or institution. Next, there's the return-level DQI. This flips it. It looks at one specific type of report, say a loan report, and it measures the quality of that report across all the banks. And finally, you have the enterprise-level DQI, which is the big one. It rolls everything up to give the RBI that 30,000-foot bird's-eye view of the entire system's data health.
So you get a score, but what does it mean? Well, the benchmark is pretty clear. If you score 80 or higher, that's considered excellent. You're a star student. 70 to 80 is good, but if a bank score dips below 70, that's a red flag for the RBI, and it means they need to step in and figure out what's going wrong.
Phew. Okay, we've covered a ton of ground, so let's boil it all down. This is the section where we crystallize everything into the absolute must-know points for your exams. Ready? Let's do a rapid-fire review.
First up, the big ideas, the core concept. We're moving from just ticking boxes, compliance, to building real trust, confidence. The key jargon you have to know. REs for regulated entities, and DQI for the Data Quality Index. The guiding principle that defines it all? Fitness for use. And of course, your secret weapon for the exam? Clear the TAC and avoid the crash. Next, the framework itself. You should be able to name all 8 dimensions in your sleep. But more importantly, you have to remember the big 3 by weight. Accuracy first, then consistency, and then timeliness. And finally, you have to know the 3 levels the DQI is calculated at: the entity level for one bank, the return level for one report type, and the enterprise level for the whole shebang.
And to wrap this all up, let's just step back for a second. This whole complex framework, it's not just some academic exercise for bankers. It's about building a foundation of trust that our entire economy can stand on. So I'll leave you with this final thought. Imagine a world where every policymaker, every investor, has total, complete confidence in India's financial data. What could we achieve? How much faster could we grow? That's the real prize here. Thanks so much for joining me.